Hi everyone, Ravi this side. Welcome to EnggAdda. So today in this video we are going to discuss about one of the most important annotation of Spring Boot, which is @RestControllerAdvice. In every Spring Boot interviews, mostly this question is asked: what is @RestControllerAdvice annotation, why we are using it, and how to use it. So everything we are going to cover in this video. Okay, so first of all, what is RestControllerAdvice annotation? So this is one of the Spring Boot annotation which is used to handle the exception in Spring Boot REST services globally. Okay, so you can say that it is used to globally handle the exception in Spring Boot REST services. How to implement it, we are going to show you through a real life example. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a Spring Boot application, and there I will try to show you how to use @RestControllerAdvice. So let me try to brief you about the application that we are going to develop here. So before going to brief you about the application, let me try to explain you the scenario. Okay, so this @RestControllerAdvice annotation is used to handle the exception globally. Okay, so let's say we have developed one application where we have more than two or three HTTP layers or controllers, you can say. Okay, and we have the same exception raised for different controller layers. Then there should be one scenario, or there should be one class which can handle the exception for different controllers in one class, or centrally or globally, you can say. Okay, so there should be one class which can handle the exception raised throughout different controllers globally. Okay, so that is where the concept of @RestControllerAdvice come into the picture, which help us to handle the exception globally in Spring Boot REST services. Okay, so let's get started, and let me try to develop the application, and you will get the more understanding after that. So let me try to go to the IntelliJ here, and let me try to create one of the application, which is Spring Boot application. So go to the file, new, and project, and here I'm using the IntelliJ Ultimate version. So you can see this Spring Initializer option, and directly I can create the Spring Boot application from here. Otherwise, you need to go to the start spring.io, and there you can go and you can create your Spring Boot application. If you are using the IntelliJ Ultimate, if you are using the IntelliJ Community version. Okay, so let me try to create our application, and let's say the application name is Spring something like REST Controller Advice Annotation, and let's say it is Maven, and let me try to go next. So here we are not going to use any database. Okay, so let me try to use Spring Web, and let me try to use the Lombok as well. So how we are managing the records, I will try to show you through the development. Okay, so using the post construct, I'm going to create one list where I will try to install a couple of the items before it start the application, and once the application is started, it automatically load those items there in the list. Okay, so I will show you everything how we are going to manage it. So this application is created, and here we are using the starter dependency as web and Lombok. Okay, now let me try to create one entity here. Okay, so first of all, I'm going to create two projects, two CRUD projects in the same application. One will manage the product related things, and second will manage the user related thing. And let's say both of them are raising one exception, which is null pointer exception, user not found or product not found, and that exception should be handled globally using the @RestControllerAdvice annotation that we are going to cover here. So first of all, what I'm going to do, I'm just going to create the product related APIs or product related CRUD application, and then we'll try to handle that exception and then we'll try to cover the second scenario where we are going to develop the user related APIs or user related things. So let me try to create the entity first here. So let me try to create one package entity, and let's say the entity is product, and let's say the product has private integer ID and private string name, private product price and quantity. Okay, so let's say private double, okay, price and private integer quantity. Okay, so we have these four attributes, and we are not using any database, so we are not going to use that the table and all. But yeah, we need getter and setter, so we are going to use the data, and we need all argument constructor, we need no argument constructor, so everything we are going to annotate here. So we are good now. Now let me try to create one. So as of now we are not using any database. That means we are skipping the DAO layer or repository layer. We are directly going to the service layer, and in the service layer I'm also not going to create the service interface, directly going to implement the service class. Okay, so let me try to go there, and let's say I'm going to create the package service, and here we have the product service class. Okay, let me try to annotate this class with @service annotation so that its bin can be created and assigned to the application context. Now here I am going to create one static list which will be containing the list of product. Okay, so let me try to do that. Private static final list of product, and its name is products. Let me try to import the list product and array list as well. So what we did, we have created one private static final list of product which name is products, and its implementation is of array list type. Now here I am going to use the post construct so that I can create one method which will be adding couple of products into the list products, and when we are going to start this application, then this list would be having those products added already. Okay, so let me try to do that. So we don't need a database here, we are uh, adding some dummy values here. Okay, so let me try to create one product here. So product p new product, let me try to provide the value here. Let's say product name is mobile, and its price is, let's say, 20,000, and quantity is, let's say, 1. Okay, so we have one product ready. Let me try to add this to the list above that we have created. Okay, so this dot products, which is a list, and then we are adding the product that we have created here. So when the application will load, in the list we have one product added already. Okay, so we are good now. Now let me try to create one method here which will be listing out the product. Okay, so let me try to create that method, and let's say it's get products, and this will return this dot product list, sorry, this dot products. Okay, so we are good now. Let me try to make it public so that we can use it in the controller layer. Now let me try to create one more method which will be inserting the product in the list. Okay, so and its return type would be the inserted product. Okay, so insert product, and here what we are going to do, we are going to pass the product here. So product p or product, and then we are going to use this dot products dot add product, and then return the product here that we have added. So we have created this one get product list method and one insert product method. Now let me try to create the controller here. Okay, so controller dot product controller. Okay, now let me try to annotate this with at the rate rest controller, and here let me try to create the uh, get mapping, which will be calling the get products method from the product service. Okay, and its return type is list of product. So let me try to do that. Let me try to import the product here and the list as well, and let's say its name is get all product, something like that. And to call the method inside the product service, we need to auto add the product service in reference here. So private product service. Okay, through this reference we can call the method inside the product service. So get products, and let me try to return it from here. So this is going to the product service class, calling this get product method and then returning the list of product. Now let me try to create one post mapping, or before going to create the post mapping, let me try to add the mapping here in the get mapping. So let's say products, something like that. Yeah, now let me try to create the post mapping here, and it will returning the added product. So return type is product, and let's say it is insert product. We have to pass the product here. Okay, and let me try to add the APIs, or what we can say URL here. So let's say slash insert product. Okay, here we are passing the product as a request body. So let me try to use the annotation request body, and okay, so it should be request body, not response body. Now we are good. Now let me try to call the method which is insert, which is inside the product service. So we have the product service reference, and using that we are going to call the insert product method and pass the product reference. Okay, and then return it. So we have created this APIs, and now let me try to hit this APIs first, and then we'll try to raise a null pointer exception. Okay, and then we'll try to show you how to cover that. First of all, we'll try to cover it inside the controller itself, not globally, and then I will try to tell you how to globally cover those things or handle those things. So let me try to run this application first, and through the postman I can hit these APIs. Okay, so I think this application is up. Let me try to enable the Lombok. So this application is up on the port number 8080. Now if you'll go to the postman, and I already have created couple of things here. So let me try to use these APIs here. So you can see our application is locally up on the port number 8080, and to get the list of all product, what is the URL we have? If we'll go to the controller and we'll go up, you can see we have the products here. So copy this and come here. So we have not defined any request mapping here, so there is a no class level mapping. We can directly come here after the localhost 8080 and provide the particular URL for the particular methods. Okay, so let me try to hit it, and you can see we have one product coming in the response. So from where it is coming, let me try to show you. So if we'll go to the product service, here we have already added one product when the application it start. Okay, now let me try to add the other products by hitting the insert API. Okay, so you can see the mapping is insert product for the insert API. So if you go there and let me try to come here, paste it here, and this would be the body. Okay, so this would be the request body, or you can say the payload. So we have the id one already added, and now let me try to add the product id 2, and let's say its name is let me try to come here, let's say its name is laptop, and its price is 70,000 and the quantity is 1. Now let me try to send it, and here we go, you can see it is inserted. Okay, so it should be qty. Now let me try to send it, and here you can see it is inserted. If you'll go to the above and if you'll find it, then you can see we have like 3 products added in the list. Okay, so this is how you can find out all the products and add the product inside the list, or you can say your APIs. Okay, so both APIs are working fine. Now what if we have missed the name? Okay, so there should be one scenario where we should be validating the name, or every field you can validate, right? But here I'm going to take the example of name. So let's say we have missed the name. Okay, the product name we are passing as null, and in that scenario it should not be going to insert that product. It should be raising one exception saying that the product name should not be null. Okay, so that is what we are going to do here. Okay, so let me try to let's say this time we are going to pass the null here. Okay, and the price is this. Let me try to remove the inverted comma and try to change the id to 3, and let's say price is 80,000, something like that, and hit it. You will see that this product without having any name is still inserted in the list. Okay, if you'll go here to the find all and if you'll hit it, you can see this is inserted. You can see the third one. So this should not be the case, this should not be the scenario, this should not be the ideal scenario of using the APIs or inserting any product. So we should be validating every fields. Okay, so here I'm going to show you how to validate the particular field which is name or product name. If the product name is null, then we should be throwing one exception, and how we can handle that exception we are going to show you, and how to handle it globally, that is also we are going to show you. So so the purpose of developing these two APIs to show you how to use these APIs, and what if some field is missing, then how do you can raise the exception, how to handle that exception, and how to handle that exception globally. Okay, so let me try to go to the IntelliJ and go to the API. So let's say this API, which is insert API, it is sending one product as a payload. If we'll go to the insert product method, so here we are not doing any validation. It is directly going to this list and added to this list. So what if I'm just going to check for the name here? So let's say if product dot get name double equal to null. Okay, so what if the product that we are passing here, its name is null? Then in that scenario we are going to throw a null pointer exception. So just throw new null pointer exception, and here you can pass that product name cannot be null. Okay, so let me try to do that and just pass it. And you can also like throw from this method. So let me try to throw the null pointer exception out of it. Go to this controller, so here it should also be throwing that. So let me try to throw that. Now let me try to run this application and try to show you. So here we are generating the exception, but we are not handling it yet. Okay, so let me try to hit it, and let me try to show you what is happening. So this application is up, And this time, let's say we are going to send the name as null. Now hit it, and here we are getting the 500 error, which is internal server error. If you'll go to the application and if you'll go down here, you can see, let me try to maximize the console. Here you can see we are getting the message which is product name cannot be null, but we are not handling this exception. So this is breaking our application flow. Okay, so we need to handle it as well. So how you can handle it? Okay, so there is a way you can handle it. So either you can handle it in this class or in the service class. Okay, and you can handle it globally as well. So first of all, I will try to tell you how to handle it in this class. Okay, and then we'll move it to the global exception handling. So let me try to handle it here. So there is a annotation called exception handler, so you can use it. And let me try to create one method which is returning the let's say public map of a string something like that. And let me try to import this. Let's say its name is get or something like handle null pointer exception, handle null pointer exception. Okay, so here in the handler you have to provide the exception name, which exception you are going to handle. Okay, I think its value should be there. I think we need to remove the value here, so we'll remove it. And let's say the method name is handle null pointer exception. So just we need to pass the null pointer exception here, which we are going to handle as an exception, as an argument, you can say. Okay, so just let's say it's a null pointer exception. And now let me try to create one map which will be handling the errors or the error response that we are throwing out of the exception. Okay, so let me try to create that. So let's say the map of string, and let's say its name is error map is equal to new hash map. Let me try to import the hash map here, and let me try to put the key as, let's say it is error message, something like that. And in the message we are going to put the message which is coming from the exception, raised exception. Okay, so get message, and that's it. Now let me try to remove it. Let it put comma here. So what we are doing, we are handling the exception, we are catching that exception here, and we have created one error map where we are putting the key as error message, and then we are extracting out the message out of this exception and putting it in the map. Okay, now let me try to return the map out of here. Okay, so that is all. So with the help of this at the rate exception handler annotation, we can handle this exception in this controller class itself. Okay, now let me try to rerun this application and try to hit the API again with the null name or null product name. Then let's see what is happening. Okay, so our application is up and running. Now let me try to go to the postman and try to hit it here. And this time we are not getting 500 error. We are getting the error message that we have covered in the exception handler. So that means our exception is handled properly. And here we are getting the 200. Okay, but it should not be 200. It should be 500 itself. And we should be getting the error message here. So let me try to come here, and here you can see our application is still running. That means we have handled the exception correctly. But this exception is handled inside this particular controller itself, right? It is not centrally handled. It is not globally handled. What if we have the others controller and there the same exception is raised? Then again we have to handle it for the particular controller itself, right? but this should not be the correct way of writing the application. So we should be handling the same exception at the global level or at the central level once a time. Okay, so whenever anywhere a null pointer exception is raised, it should be going there to the central level or to the global level and will be handled. So there our at the rate rest controller advice annotation help us to do those things. So let me try to create one package here, and let's say the package name is advice, and there, okay, and there I will try to create one class which will be handling the exception globally. Okay, so let's say it is global exception handler, something like that. And this class should be annotated with at the rate rest controller advice. Okay, now what we can do, we can go to the product controller and copy this piece of code or cut it from here and put it here. And this should be handled, right? So if it is handled here in this class itself, that means it is handling the things globally. But how you can say, because in this application the null pointer exception is raised only in the product controller layer itself, right? So that is why I'm going to create another controller or another project where we are going to raise the same null pointer exception, and we'll see if it is raised and it is handled centrally or globally or not. Okay, so we'll try to show you those things as well. But right now what I'm going to do, I just cut the code to handle the exception from the product controller and put it in this class which is annotated with at the rate rest controller advice. And let me try to run this application and then show you. So if you'll go there, let me try to rerun this application first and try to show you. So our application is up and it is up on the port number 8080. Now let me try to hit this API again, and here you can see still we are able to handle the exception when we move our code from the controller to the class which is handling the exception globally, right? That means the global have exception handling is happening here, and it is handled with the help of at the rate rest controller advice. Now let me try to create the same thing or same APIs for the user. Okay, so that we can handle the same null pointer exception for the user as well without writing the same code for the user controller. Okay, so with this piece of code which is handling the null pointer exception, we can handle as many as null pointer exception which is raised inside the application. That is the purpose of global exception handling. So let me try to do that for you. So go to the entity and let me try to, okay. So before going to develop those things, here you can see, let me try to correct one thing. We are getting the 200 okay status. It should not be that status. So we should be returning the 500. Okay, so let me try to do that. So here you can use at the rate response status annotation, and you can provide the HTTP status according to yourself. Response status, and let's say we have the value equal to internal server error, something like that. And let me try to run it and try to hit this API again and then show you those things. So yeah, our application will be up. It is up. Go to the postman and try to hit it again. And here you can see we are getting this error message. That means our exception is handled, and the status now it become 500. So everything is working fine. Now let me try to create the whole flow for the user, and then we'll try to raise a exception which will be a null pointer exception, and it should be handled with this piece of code. So coming to the entity, let me try to create one user entity here. So let's say it is user, and this time let me try to provide the attribute like private integer id, private string name, and private string address, something like that. And let me try to move it down, and here let me try to use at the rate all argument constructor, at the rate no argument constructor, and data, which is including the getter and setter. So everything is good. Go to the product service or service package and create here the user service class. Okay, user service. Now we need to annotate this user service class with at the rate service annotation, so that it bin can be created and assigned to the application context, so that in the controller we can auto wire it. Now here let me try to do the same thing what we did in the product service. So we are going to create a list and everything we are going to do the same thing. So let me try to copy this whole piece of code, and according to the user we can change it. Okay, so let me try to remove this product here. We are not going to use it, so it would be the list of user, and that user should be coming from the entity. Make sure it is coming from the entity. Let me try to remove it, and here let's say it is user, user, new user, and let's say user id is 1, name is let's say Arun, and its address is let's say Lucknow. Okay, so we have added one user, and this time let's say the list is users. Okay, so copy this and come down, this dot user dot add user that ever we have created. So once the application will run or load for the first time, this list will be created and one user will be added to this list. Now let me try to create the method which will be getting all the users. Okay, so let me try to use it like get users, and it would be list of users and this dot users. Okay, so we are good. Now if we'll go down, this method is going to insert the user. So let's say it is insert user. We have to pass the user as the argument, and here let's say user, its return type would be the added user, and it is also throwing the null pointer exception here. Let's say this time also we are going to check for the name itself. So let's say user dot get name, if it is null, then it should throw a null pointer exception saying that user name cannot be null. And finally we are, if it is like the username is not null, then we are going to add this user to the list of users. So this dot users dot add user, and then return that user. That's it. So we have created a list, we have created the post construct, we have created a method which is getting all the users, and we have created one method which is inserting the user into the list. Now if the username is null, then it is throwing a null pointer exception. Now come here to the controller and let me try to create a user controller. So let's say user controller. Let me try to annotate this with at the rate rest controller, and that's it. Let me try to auto wire the user service here. Import this user service class, and that is all. Let me try to develop the mappings here. So get mapping, which is returning the list of users. Okay, so let's say list of users, get all users, something like that. Get all users, and let me try to import the list here first. So this is going to call the get all users from the user service. So I'm going to use the user service reference and call the get users, and then simply return it. So we are good. Now let me try to write a post mapping here. So copy this, paste it here. Let's say it is post mapping, and this time let's say the URL is insert user, insert underscore, sorry, insert users or user, something like that. Now here we need to this return type would be user that is going to insert or that is inserted in the list. So insert user, here we need to pass user as a request body, user, and then we are going to call the user service dot insert user and pass the user here and then return it. So these APIs are also good. Now let me try to run this application and try to hit these APIs. So slash user API is returning the list of user, and insert user API is going to insert the user in the list. So this application is up now. Go to the Postman, and here I have created to insert it. Let me try to create one get request here. So duplicate it, and this would be list of users. Okay, so let me try to name it like all users, and it would be HTTP. Okay, users. Okay, now let me try to hit it and then see. So you can see as of now we have only one user inserted in the user list, which is already inserted when the application is loaded. Okay, if we go to the user service, you can see this user is inserted as because we are using at the rate post construct. So one user is there in the list. Now let me try to save it first, and let me try to insert couple of more users. So let's say the second user we are going to insert is let's say it is Deepak, something like that, and the address is VNS. Now let me try to insert it. So what is the URL for the insert user? If you go to the user controller, you will find it. It is insert user. U is in the capital. So we are using camel case things here. Okay, so just hit enter, and you can see the second user is also inserted. If we'll go to the get all users, you will find it. You can see as of now we have two users. So both of the APIs are working fine. Now what if we are going to insert the user with the name as null? So let's say the third user we are going to insert is, and it is null. So we have, if we'll go to the code, we have handled these things, right? So if we'll go to the user service, and if we'll come down, you can see if the name is null, username is null, then it is going to throw an exception which is saying that username cannot be null, and this is a null pointer exception. That means it should be handled automatically because here globally we are handling this exception. Okay, so let me try to hit it and then show you. So if everything is fine, if we are getting the error message here, that means this exception is handled, and it is being handled globally with the help of @RestControllerAdvice. So let me try to hit enter here, and you can see username cannot be null, and that means our exception is handled. You can see we are not getting anything in the logs. That means our exception is handled, and this is handled by this class which is global exception handler, and it is handled by this exception handler which is handling the null pointer exception. Okay, that means our @RestControllerAdvice annotation is working fine. It is fulfilling its purpose. It is handling the exception globally. So this is about @RestControllerAdvice annotation, and this is how you can handle the exception globally in a Spring Boot application. Okay, or you can say in Spring Boot REST services. So this is about the video, guys. If you like the video, please hit the like button, and please share this video with your friends so that they can be benefited too. Okay, so thanks for the support, and please subscribe the channel. Okay, thanks.